Bangkok is sinking into the mud it was built on. The city drops 2 centimeters annually. Doesn't sound dramatic until you realize 40% already sits below sea level. By 2030, World Bank estimates significant portions will flood permanently, not during storms, permanently, as in pack your things and leave forever. The ground beneath Bangkok is soft marine clay, basically wet sponge. For decades, factories and residents pumped groundwater until the government banned it. Too late, the damage was done. Now the city sinks under its own weight while the Gulf of Thailand rises to meet it. They're building flood walls and drainage tunnels. Engineers say it's like putting sandbags around a bathtub that's still filling. The 2011 floods killed 800 people and caused $46 billion in damage. The next major flood won't be an exception. It'll be the new normal. 12 million people live in a city that's slowly becoming a lagoon. The temple's tourists photograph will be underwater museums. The government solution? Build a new airport further inland and pray the old one survives long enough to matter. Bangkok isn't fighting climate change, it's negotiating the terms of surrender.
Miami. Miami is America's most expensive underwater future. The city sits on porous limestone, basically a giant sponge. Seawalls are useless because the ocean rises through the ground. High tide now floods streets that were dry 20 years ago. They call it sunny day flooding. No rain, no storm, just the ocean casually reclaiming territory. They've pumped $500 million into raising roads and installing pumps. The pumps work great until they push salt water into freshwater supplies, killing plants and contaminating wells. Property values in flood zones keep rising because buyers don't believe the reports. Insurance companies believe them. Premiums tripled in 5 years. Some areas are now uninsurable. Average elevation, 6 feet. Projected sea rise by 2100, 6 feet. And those projections keep getting revised upward. Miami's official strategy is managed retreat, government speak for abandoned neighborhoods strategically. Your beachfront condo is a future reef.
Mexico City. Mexico City is drinking itself into the ground. Built on a drained lakebed, some areas sink 50 centimeters annually, 10 times faster than Venice. The historic cathedral slopes like a funhouse. Buildings lean visibly. Streets crack open. They abandoned a half-built airport because it sank too fast, wasting $13 billion. The insanity? The city sinks because it pumps groundwater for 21 million people. Pumping compresses the clay lakebed. Once compressed, it never re-expands. The aquifer took millennia to fill. They're emptying it in decades. They can't stop pumping because there's no alternative water source. They can't keep pumping because the city will collapse. Sinking also cracks water pipes, losing 40% to leaks. So they pump more to replace losses, which accelerates sinking. Mexico City is trapped in a death spiral where every solution worsens the problem. That's not infrastructure. That's a suicide pact with geology.
Las Vegas exists because of Lake Mead. Lake Mead is dying. Do the math. The reservoir dropped 180 feet since 2000, losing 75% of its water. The city's intake pipe now sits uselessly above the waterline. They drilled a third intake deeper, calling it the third straw, because you can only suck so hard before the cup is empty. Vegas cut water use 30% since 2002, despite adding 750,000 residents. Impressive. Also irrelevant. The Colorado River allocation they depend on is being slashed. California, Arizona, Nevada, and Mexico all claim rights to water that doesn't exist. The river hasn't reached the ocean in years. Meanwhile, casinos blast fountains while residents face watering bans. The Bellagio shoots 1,200 gallons into the air every 15 minutes. Lake Mead could hit Deadpool by 2025, the level where nothing flows downstream. Deadpool is the actual engineering term. Las Vegas is a $45 billion bet against hydrology. Hydrology is winning.
Cape Town. Cape Town nearly became the first major city to run completely dry. In 2018, they counted down to day zero when taps would stop for 4 million people. Residents were limited to 50 liters daily. One shower, one flush, good luck with everything else. Dams hit 13% before emergency rationing barely saved them. They didn't solve the problem, they postponed it. The Western Cape gets 80% of water from rainfall that's dropped 30% since 2015. Climate models predict another 30% decline by 2035. They're building desalination plants, but those need electricity, and South Africa's grid collapses so often that blackouts have their own app. The aquifers they're now tapping took 10,000 years to fill. They're draining them in 10. Population grows, rainfall shrinks. Day zero wasn't canceled, it was rescheduled. Cape Town is borrowing water from the future and hoping nobody notices. The future is noticing.
New Orleans. New Orleans is sinking into the swamp at Concord. The city sits 3 meters below sea level, protected by levees that failed catastrophically in 2005. Katrina killed 1,800 people. They spent $14 billion rebuilding those levees. Engineers now admit they're designed for storms that climate change already made obsolete. The problem isn't just hurricanes. New Orleans sits on Mississippi sediment that compresses constantly. The pumps keeping the city dry are 100 years old and fail regularly. When they fail during rain, streets flood in hours. Louisiana loses a football field of wetlands every 100 minutes. Storm surge now travels 30% farther inland than in 1950. Category 4 hurricanes will double by 2040. Insurance companies are fleeing. FEMA keeps quietly redrawing flood maps. The city's response? Rebuild the same houses in the same flood zones with the same levees and the same prayers. New Orleans isn't adapting. It's hoping that losing slower counts as winning.
Lagos. Lagos adds 77 people every hour to a city already exploding at 21 million. By 2035, it'll be the world's largest city. By 2050, large portions won't exist above water. The city sinks while the ocean rises, disaster movie physics in real life. Victoria Island, the financial center, floods during normal rain, not hurricane rain, Tuesday afternoon rain. Streets become rivers, cars become boats. The third mainland bridge, carrying 200,000 vehicles daily, sinks into the lagoon. Engineers recommended repairs in 2008. The government recommended waiting. Informal settlements housing 60% of the population sit on land that officially doesn't exist. When floods come, residents climb to roofs and wait. The wealthy are building Eco-Atlantic, a $6 billion fortress designed to survive what the rest of Lagos cannot, a gated community against the apocalypse. Nigeria's government barely funds Lagos infrastructure. Climate adaptation costs money the city doesn't have and the country won't provide. Lagos isn't collapsing, it's being abandoned. That's not urban decay, that's policy murder.
Mumbai crams 21 million people onto a peninsula that floods every monsoon like clockwork. The city destroyed 70% of its mangroves, natural flood barriers, to build luxury apartments. Now those apartments become swimming pools every July. Developers sold ocean views without mentioning the ocean would eventually visit. The Methi River was supposed to drain rainfall. Instead, it's an open sewer clogged with garbage and illegal construction. When 2005's floods killed over 1,000 people, the government promised to clean it. 20 years later, it's worse. Every monsoon breaks drainage systems designed for a population 1/3 the current size. Dharavi, Asia's largest slum, houses 1 million people on land that floods waist deep annually. Residents have nowhere to go and no money to leave.
When waters rise, they stack belongings on shelves and wait. The wealthy are moving to higher ground in Powai and Fane. The poor stay behind to drown. Climate models project a 1-meter sea rise by 2100. Mumbai's average elevation? 2 meters. That's not a safety margin, that's a countdown. The city adds 400,000 people yearly, while the habitable land shrinks. Mumbai isn't planning for floods, it's scheduling them.